Hello, guys. Welcome you all to the Insights into Books podcast. Let's start today's discussion, guys.
It's great to be here.
I want to start today by asking you, and really everyone listening, to just take a second and do a quick mental audit. Think about, say, the last hour, just the past 60 minutes of your life. How many decisions did you actually make?
In just the last hour.
Yeah.
That's a lot to consider.
Yeah, and I'm not even talking about the huge, life-altering stuff like, should I buy a house or should I change careers? I mean, the really small micro stuff. Like, which route did you take to the studio today? Did you glance at your phone at that last red light? Did you put sugar in your coffee or did you decide against it? Did you take a sip right away or wait for it to cool down a bit?
Wow. Okay, when you break it down to that level, that granular level,
Yeah.
it's got to be in the hundreds, maybe even thousands. It's almost constant.
Exactly. I read this statistic once that claimed we make something like 35,000 decisions a day. And when I first heard that, honestly, it was terrifying. It really was.
35,000, that's an astonishing number.
It is, because if I had to genuinely think about 35,000 different things every day, I don't think I'd ever make it out of bed. I'd just be paralyzed.
You'd be suffering from what some people call decision fatigue before you'd even decided which sock to put on first.
Right. So most of the time I feel like I'm not actually deciding. I'm just sort of executing a program. I'm on autopilot.
And that autopilot feeling, that is probably the single most important concept we're going to talk about today. Because, we tell ourselves a very flattering story about who we are. We like to believe that we are the captains of our own ships. We think we are these rational, logical, calculating machines who carefully weigh the pros and cons of every single choice, from our mortgage rate all the way down to the brand of toothpaste we buy.
I would absolutely love to believe I'm that rational, I am choosing this specific toothpaste because, after careful analysis, the fluoride to price ratio is optimal for my dental health and financial well-being.
Of course. But the reality is, you're not. You probably bought it because the box was shiny or because it was at eye level on the shelf, or maybe you were just tired and grabbed the first red box you saw because that's what you bought last time.
Guilty on all counts.
The reality is much, much messier. We are deeply influenced by context, by how hungry we are, by what our friends are doing, and crucially, by how the options are presented to us in the first place.
And that right there, that brings us to the mission for today's deep dive. We are going to take a look at a set of ideas that fundamentally changed how governments, businesses, and, how we understand human behavior. We are diving into the world of nudge.
Yes, this is based on the really groundbreaking work of Thaler and Cass Sunstein. And I think the core mission today is to really get our heads around one specific, powerful term: choice architecture.
Choice architecture. Okay, it sounds like a job for someone with like a drafting table and a hard hat. It sounds very formal.
It does, doesn't it? But what's so fascinating is that it's actually a job we all do, all the time, often without realizing it. It's about how the organization of the world around us, so the physical layout of a cafeteria, the design of a website's form, the order of items on a restaurant menu, how all of that influences what we ultimately choose.
And the scary part, I guess, is that it often influences us without us having any clue that it's even happening.
That's the key. It works on that autopilot system.
So before we can get into the how of all this, we really need to understand the who. The material makes this really funny, but actually quite profound distinction between two. Let's call them species. We have the econs and we have the humans.
I love this distinction. It's really the foundational joke of all behavioral economics. So if you open up a standard economics textbook, the kind that's been used in universities for the last 50 or 60 years, you'll encounter a very specific imaginary creature, Homo economicus.
Yeah.
Or as they call them, the econ.
Right. Tell me about the econ. What's he like at a party?
Oh, he is the absolute worst person to have at a party. The econ is a marvel of nature, a perfect being. He is purely logical. He never makes a single mistake. He has, infinite cognitive processing power.
A supercomputer.
Exactly. If an econ goes to the grocery store, he instantly calculates the price per ounce of every single item. He factors in his long-term nutritional needs, his projected hunger levels for the next week, the current rate of inflation, and then makes the mathematically optimal purchase every single time.
So he never, ever buys that bag of chips just because he's feeling a little sad or stressed out.
Never. An econ has perfect, unshakable willpower. If he decides to go on a diet, he sticks to it perfectly. If he decides to save for retirement, he calculates the exact optimal amount to put away to ensure he doesn't run out of money at age 95 and a half.
He sounds a little familiar. I think they compare him to Mr. Spock from Star Trek, right?
Precisely. Mr. Spock is the ultimate econ. Pure logic. No emotion, no bias, no mistakes.
Okay, so that's the econ. But when I look in the mirror, I definitely do not see Spock. I see the guy who snoozed his alarm 3 times this morning and then ate a donut for breakfast, even though I specifically told myself last night I wouldn't.
That is because you, my friend, are Homo sapiens. You are a human. And when you compare us to econs, well, humans are kind of a disaster.
Hey, thanks, Slut.
No, it's true. I mean, think about it. Humans are emotional. We're forgetful. We are terrible at doing even simple math in our heads. We have very, very limited self-control. We procrastinate. We're easily confused by too many options. If the econ is Mr. Spock, the human is Homer Simpson.
Oh.
Exactly. And here's the fundamental problem that this whole field is trying to solve. For decades, governments, banks, corporations, you name it, they designed the world as if it were populated entirely by econs.
Right, they assumed we were all Spock.
They assumed if we just give people all the information, all the data, they will naturally make the right choice for themselves.
Here is a 40-page document, dense with legal jargon, explaining the terms of your mortgage. Surely you will read it, understand every nuance, and make a rational, long-term financial decision.
Right. And the econ would absolutely read it and understand it. But the human candle looks at 40 pages of legalese, their eyes glaze over, they get a headache, and they just sign where the little sticky note says, sign here.
Been there.
And that massive disconnect, designing a world for Spock but having it be inhabited by Homer, is the reason why so many well-intentioned policies and products ultimately fail.
So if we're going to fix this, we have to understand why we're all a little bit like Homer Simpson. Is it just that we're lazy?
Yeah.
Or is there something, deeper going on in our brains?
It's biological. It's really a hardware issue, not a software one.
Yeah.
To get it, we have to look at the work of the psychologist Daniel Kahneman, who won a Nobel Prize for this stuff.
No.
He popularized the idea that our brains have 2 distinct operating systems running at all times.
System 1 and System 2.
Correct. Let's start with System 1. This is your automatic system. It's the gut reaction.
Can you give me a really clear, real-world example of System 1 just taking over?
Sure. Imagine you're just walking down the street minding your own business, and someone suddenly throws a baseball right at your face. What do?
I duck. Instantly. I don't think, I just react.
Exactly. You don't sit there and calculate the trajectory of the ball. You don't check the wind speed. You just duck. That is pure System 1. It is fast, it's instinctive, it's uncontrolled, and it's totally effortless.
Okay.
It's the part of your brain that smiles when you see a cute puppy. It's the part that can instantly complete the phrase, peanut butter and...
Yeah.
See? You didn't have to think about that. It just happened. Your brain served it up automatically. That's System 1.
Got it. The automatic pilot.
But then we have System 2. This is the reflective system.
This sounds like the one that does all the heavy lifting.
It is. System 2 is slow, it's deliberate, it's self-conscious, and honestly, it's kind of painful to use. It requires actual caloric energy. It's work.
So this is my brain when I'm trying to parallel park into a really tight spot on a busy street.
Yes, that's a perfect example. Notice what you do when you parallel park. You turn down the radio, you stop talking to your passenger, you tell everyone to be quiet. You need all your focus.
I need total concentration.
That is you consciously booting up System 2. Or, let me try this. What is 2 plus 2?
4. That's System 1. Easy.
Okay. Now, what is 347 multiplied by 12?
Yeah. I'm just staring at you. My brain just hit a brick wall. I know I could do it, but I'd need a pen and some paper, and I'd probably be pretty annoyed about having to do it.
That feeling of annoyance, that is your brain actively resisting the effort of using System 2. We are what they call cognitive misers. We are fundamentally lazy thinkers. We want to spend as little mental energy as possible, so whenever we can get away with it, we rely on System 1.
We let Homer Simpson drive the car.
We absolutely do. And look, most of the time, that's fine. You don't need System 2 to brush your teeth or tie your shoes. But the real problem arises when we start using System 1 for big, complex decisions that it's not equipped to handle.
Like trying to choose a health insurance plan.
Exactly. That should be a System 2 decision. You should sit down, compare the deductibles, analyze the premiums, look at the out-of-pocket maximums.
Right.
But it's hard, it's boring, it's confusing.
It's a huge pain.
It is. So System 2 says, you know what, I'm tired. And it lets System 1 take over. And System 1 just says, just pick the one with the gold medal logo on it, or I don't know, just pick the one your friend Bob has.
And Bob is an idiot.
Bob is definitely an idiot. But this is the crucial insight of this entire body of work. We rely on this fast, automatic gut-feeling thinking to navigate an incredibly complex world. And that reliance leads to predictable mistakes. They call them biases and blunders.
Okay, let's dig into some of these blunders because I think this is where people listening are really going to start seeing themselves in the mirror. These aren't just random errors, are they? They're predictable.
No, they are systematic. That's the key word. We make the same kinds of mistakes over and over again in ways that can be predicted and, well, sometimes exploited.
The first one that's mentioned in the material is a big one. It's called anchoring. This one really messed with my head when I first read about it.
Anchoring is one of the most powerful and robust findings in psychology. It basically says that when we're trying to guess a number or estimate a value, we rely way too heavily on the first piece of information we see, the anchor, even if that information is completely and totally irrelevant.
The classic example they use involves guessing the population of Milwaukee. Can you walk us through that one?
Sure. So researchers will ask a group of people to guess the population of Milwaukee. But here's the trick. They prime them with another number first. For example, they'll ask someone who lives in Chicago.
Okay, and Chicago is huge. It's got about 3 million people.
Right. So the person from Chicago has the number 3 million floating around in their head. That's their anchor. Now, they know Milwaukee is smaller than Chicago, so they adjust downwards from that anchor. But because they started at such a high number, they don't adjust nearly enough. They might guess something like 1 million.
But then if you ask someone from, say, Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Green Bay is a much smaller city, maybe 100,000 people. So that's their anchor. They know Milwaukee is bigger, so they adjust up. But again, that low anchor holds them back. They might guess 300,000.
So even though both people are trying to be logical, the first number they happen to think of acts like a kind of gravitational pull. It just drags their answer toward it.
It's exactly like a magnet. And this isn't just a fun party trick about city populations. This is used against you practically every time you buy something.
Right, I'm immediately thinking about charity donations. I see this all the time on websites.
It is a classic textbook move. You get a letter or go to a website for a charity, look at the suggested donation boxes. They almost never start at something small like $5. They'll pre-fill the options. $100, $250, $1,000, and then other.
They are deliberately setting the anchor at $100.
They are nudging you. If the option started at $10, you might think giving $20 is pretty generous. After all, it's double the minimum. But when the line starts at $100, suddenly giving $20 feels, well, it feels cheap. It feels inadequate. They are hacking your system, one, to raise your baseline of what a normal donation is.
That is incredibly sneaky. But I have to assume it works.
It works incredibly well. It's the same reason why in any negotiation, experts will tell you to always try to make the first offer. You get to set the anchor that the entire rest of the conversation will revolve around.
Let's move to another one that I think explains why I'm such a nervous flyer. The availability heuristic.
Ah, yes. This is the primary reason we are all afraid of the wrong things. The availability heuristic says that we judge the likelihood of an event not based on cold, hard statistics, but by how easily we can recall examples of it. If an example is readily available in your memory, you assume it's common.
So let's take plane crashes.
Statistically, commercial flying is unbelievably safe. You are far, far more likely to die in a car accident driving to the airport than you are on the actual plane. But when a plane does crash, what happens?
It's the only thing on the news. It's everywhere. CNN, breaking news alerts, dramatic photos of the wreckage, heartbreaking interviews with survivors' families. It's a whole media event.
It is vivid. It's emotional. It gets seared into your memory. So the next time you're sitting in that airplane seat and you hear a weird noise, your system one is screaming, "I remember that crash. This is dangerous." Because that image is so readily available.
But nobody ever reports on the 100,000 flights that landed perfectly safely yesterday.
Exactly. Flight 347 landed safely is not a headline. So all those safe landings aren't available in your memory. Only the dramatic, rare disasters are.
This also explains the earthquake insurance phenomenon that's mentioned in the sources.
Right. It's a famous finding. The absolute best time to sell earthquake insurance is the day after an earthquake.
Which, if you think about it with System 2, makes no logical sense. If the quake just happened, hasn't the geological tension been released? Aren't you actually safer for a while?
A geologist might argue that. But to a human, the risk feels massive. It feels imminent. Because the idea of an earthquake is suddenly very real and available. Before the quake, People ignore the statistical risk. After the quake, they overreact to it. We are reacting to the salience of the story, not the underlying data.
We see this with perceptions of crime rates too, don't we?
Absolutely. Crime has statistically gone down in many places over the last couple of decades. But if you watch the nightly news, which focuses on specific, lurid, violent incidents, you can't help but feel like the world is more dangerous than ever. The available examples are driving your perception of reality, even if they contradict the numbers.
That's a really powerful lens to view the world through. It makes you realize how much our media diet shapes our fears. Okay, let's talk about representativeness. This feels a bit like a cousin to stereotyping.
It is. Representativeness is our tendency to judge how likely it is that person A belonged to category B by seeing how similar A is to our stereotype or our mental image of category B.
Can you break that down for me with an example?
Sure. Let's say I describe a person to you. He's shy, he's withdrawn, he's generally helpful, but has very little interest in people or in the world of reality. He's a meek and tidy soul. He has a deep need for order and structure and a passion for detail. Now, is this person more likely to be a librarian or a farmer?
Well, every part of that description just screams librarian.
That's the stereotype. That's system one, jumping to a conclusion based on how well the description represents your image of a librarian. But system two should kick in and ask a different question. Wait a minute. Are there more farmers or librarians in the world?
And there are way, way more farmers.
In many places, farmers outnumber librarians by something like 20-1. So statistically, even a person who fits that shy description is far more likely to be a farmer just based on the raw numbers. But we ignore that base rate because the story of the description feels so right.
We ignore the math because the narrative is more compelling.
Exactly. And this leads to all sorts of errors, like the hot hand fallacy in sports. We see a basketball player hit 3 shots in a row. It looks like a pattern. It fits our stereotype of a player who is in the zone or on fire.
So we assume he's more likely to make the next one.
We do, but often if you analyze the data, you find it's just random luck. It's a statistical cluster that our brains mistakenly interpret as a meaningful pattern. We really are pattern-seeking machines. We hate randomness.
We absolutely despise it. We have to have a narrative for everything.
We do.
Okay, this next one hits my wallet hard. I think it hits everyone's wallet. Loss aversion.
This is a huge one. It's one of the cornerstones of behavioral economics, discovered by Kahneman and Tversky. The simple finding is that losses loom larger than gains.
Can you put a number on that for me? How much larger?
The general rule of thumb from the research is that it's roughly a 2-to-1 ratio. The psychological pain of losing $100 is about twice as intense as the psychological pleasure of gaining $100.
So if I found $100 on the street, I'd be happy. But if I then immediately dropped that $100 bill and it blew away, I'd be devastated. I wouldn't just be back at neutral.
You'd be deep in the negative emotionally. You would need to find about $200 just to balance out the emotional pain of losing that first $100. This makes us incredibly conservative with what we already have. We're terrified of losing.
This explains why I stay in bad situations sometimes, or hold on to a losing stock way too long.
It's the sunk cost fallacy, combined with pure inertia. We stick with bad jobs, bad investments, bad relationships, because the act of leaving or selling feels like formally locking in the loss. Staying, even if it's making us miserable, feels safer because we haven't admitted defeat.
Which connects directly to the next one, the status quo bias, which the book calls the, heuristic.
It's the path of least resistance. Newton's first law of motion applies to people just as much as it applies to objects in space. An object at rest tends to stay at rest.
Unless acted upon by a strong outside force.
And that force requires effort. It requires firing up that lazy system too. If you're subscribed to a magazine you don't even read anymore, the act of canceling it requires finding your password, logging into a website, calling a number, maybe mailing a form. That's a lot of effort.
Whereas doing nothing is easy.
Doing nothing is free, at least in terms of effort, even if it's costing you money every month. We all pay a lazy tax on a whole bunch of things in our lives.
And companies absolutely bang on this. Free trials that automatically roll over into paid subscriptions are built entirely on the foundation of the status quo bias. They know most of us just won't get around to canceling in time.
It's a business model.
One last bias before we look for some solutions. Social influence. We all like to think we're independent thinkers, right? I march to the beat of my own drum.
We are sheep. We are fundamentally herd animals. We look to other people, especially people we see as being in our tribe, to define what is true and what is appropriate behavior.
The Don't Mess with Texas anti-littering campaign is the perfect example of this, isn't it?
It's a brilliant example. So back in the 80s, Texas had a huge littering problem, especially among young men. They tried the standard econ approach first. Signs saying fines for littering. It did nothing.
Okay.
Then they tried the Poll-It approach, signs that said, please keep Texas beautiful.
I just can't imagine a 20-year-old guy in a pickup truck being moved by an appeal to keep it beautiful.
He wasn't. So they pivoted to social influence. They hired famous, tough Dallas Cowboys players. They had them on camera crushing beer cans and looking tough and saying, don't mess with Texas.
So it wasn't about the law and it wasn't about aesthetics. It was about identity.
Exactly. The new message was, real Texans, tough Texans like us, don't litter. It created a new social norm. If you littered, you weren't a rebel anymore. You were an outsider. You weren't part of the tribe. And littering dropped massively.
We see this with culture, too. The sources mentioned an experiment about downloading songs online.
This was a fascinating study. They set up a music download website with a bunch of unknown bands. In the control group, people just saw the song titles and could listen and download. In the experimental group, people could also see how many times each song had already been downloaded by others.
And I'm guessing the rich got richer.
Instantly and dramatically. If a song got even a slight, random early lead in downloads, everyone else piled on, assuming it must be good. It became a hit simply because people thought it was a hit. The objective quality of the song mattered far less than the social signal of its popularity.
So we've painted a pretty bleak picture of humanity here. We're biased, we're lazy, we're bad at math, we just follow the herd, and we're terrified of losing the stuff we have.
It's a bit of a reality check, isn't it?
It really is. But this is where the whole concept pivots. It says, okay, this is who we are. We aren't econs, we are humans. So, knowing that, how do we design a world that helps us humans make better choices for ourselves without, treating us like children?
And that leads directly to the core political philosophy of this work, which sounds like a complete contradiction. It's called Libertarian Paternalism.
Okay, stop right there. Those two words sound like they should be in a cage match, fighting to the death.
They are very strange deadfellows for sure.
Libertarian generally means leave me alone, government, let me do what I want.
Correct. Freedom of choice is paramount.
And paternalism means I'm your dad, I know what's best for you, so eat your vegetables.
Also correct. It's about guiding people. So how on earth do you combine them? The argument is that you can and should try to steer people's choices in a way that will improve their own lives, that's the paternalism part, while still preserving their freedom to do whatever they want, including making a bad choice. That's the libertarian part.
Can you give me a really concrete example of that in practice?
Think about the GPS on your phone. When you type in a destination, the app suggests a route. It usually suggests the fastest one by default. That is a paternalistic nudge. It is actively guiding you toward what it thinks is a better outcome, saving you time.
But I don't have to follow it. I can ignore it.
Exactly. If you want to take the scenic route, you can.
Yeah.
If you know a better shortcut, you can take it.
Yeah.
If you want to drive in circles for an hour, the GPS won't stop you. It preserves your liberty, it nudges, but it never shoves.
So it's a kind of third way. We're so used to thinking in binaries. It's either ban everything dangerous, which is command and control, or it's let everyone do whatever they want and suffer the consequences, which is complete laissez-faire.
Right. Libertarian paternalism says there's a huge middle ground. Let's keep the freedom, but let's be smart about how we design the choice so that the healthy or smart option is also the easiest one to take.
And the person who designs that choice, who sets up the GPS, is called a choice architect.
Yes. And this is a really key realization from the book. You are probably a choice architect in your own life and you don't even know it.
So who qualifies?
Right.
Who is a choice architect?
It's anyone who organizes the context in which other people make decisions. A doctor describing treatment options to a patient is a choice architect. A website designer building a checkout page is a choice architect. A parent deciding where to put the snacks in the kitchen is a choice architect.
The classic example they use is the cafeteria manager.
Yes, Carolyn. She's the hypothetical director of food services for a school district.
Yeah.
Every day, she has to arrange the food in the cafeteria line. Now, she has a few options. She could put the chocolate cake and the brownies right at the beginning at eye level, or she could put the fresh fruit and carrots there instead.
And we know from the status quo bias and just basic laziness that whatever is right there, easy to grab, is what more people will take.
Exactly. The arrangement of the choices inevitably influences consumption. So Carolyn has a choice to make. Does she arrange the food to maximize profit for the cafeteria? Does she arrange it completely randomly? Or does she try to arrange it to gently improve the health of the students?
Now, a critic might say, just be neutral. Don't try to manipulate the kids. Just present the options.
But here is the brilliant central insight of the whole thing. There is no such thing as a neutral design.
Explain what you mean by that.
The food has to go somewhere. You can't put the cake and the carrots in the exact same spot in space and time, so any arrangement you choose will have some influence. If you arrange it randomly, you are nudging randomly. If you arrange it to maximize profit, you are nudging for profit. Since you must influence the choice one way or another, the authors argue you have a responsibility to do it in a way that helps people.
That's a very powerful argument. You can't opt out of architecture. A building has to be designed somehow. A website has to be laid out somehow.
Precisely. So since we have to do it, let's try to build it well.
So to build it well, they give us a toolkit, a kind of user manual for influencing behavior for good. And they use the acronym NDGES. Let's walk through these 6 principles because this is where the theory really becomes practical.
Let's go.
The first one is incentives, the N in nudges S.
Right, and this seems really obvious at first. It's economics 101. If the price of something goes up, people demand less of it. But good choice architects look deeper at the alignment of incentives. You have to always ask 4 key questions. Who uses? Who chooses? Who pays? And who profits?
And when those 4 roles are split up among different people, things get really weird and go wrong.
Think about the American healthcare system for a moment. The patient uses the service. The doctor chooses the service or treatment. The insurance company pays for it. The hospital profits. The incentives are a complete mess, pulling in different directions. A good nudge tries to make incentives salient.
What does salient mean in this context? Visible.
Visible and immediate. For example, we all want to save energy to save money and help the planet. But if you leave the lights on all day, you don't feel the pain of that choice until the electricity bill comes 3 weeks later. The incentive is disconnected from the action.
Okay.
A salient incentive is something like a smart thermostat that shows you in real time the cost in dollars and cents of the heat you're using.
Oh yeah, if I saw a little display that said, this air conditioning is currently costing you $5 an hour, I would turn it off in a heartbeat.
Exactly. It connects the behavior directly to the cost, immediately.
Yeah.
That's a salient incentive.
Okay, next up is understand mappings. The U. This one sounds a little technical.
It's really just about translation. It's about helping people map a choice to its actual consequence for their well-being. We are notoriously terrible at this with technical specs or abstract numbers.
Like megapixels on a digital camera.
The perfect example. If I tell you this camera has 18 megapixels and that one has 24, does that really help you make a decision?
Not really. I just assume 24 is better, but I don't really know why or if I even need it.
It's just an abstract number. A good mapping translates that for you. A better design would say the 18 megapixel camera is great for 4x6 prints and sharing online. The 24 megapixel camera can be used to print a large wall poster.
Ah, now I can actually choose. I can say, you know what, I don't need posters, so I'll save my money and buy the 18.
Exactly. You successfully map the technical choice to your actual life, your actual welfare. We see this with credit cards, too. Telling someone their APR is 21% is confusing. Telling them, if you only pay the minimum on this balance, it will take you 22 years to pay it off and cost you an extra $5,000 in interest. That is a map.
That is a very scary map, but an incredibly useful one. Okay, the next one is the big one, the D, defaults.
This is the superstar. If you remember absolutely nothing else from our deep dive today, remember the power of defaults. It is the single most powerful tool in all of choice architecture.
And why is it so powerful?
It's a combination of the status quo bias and pure laziness. The default is simply what happens if you do nothing. And since humans usually do nothing, the default almost always wins.
We see this with software installations all the time, the choice between standard installation and custom installation.
On what do 99% of people click? Standard, because they're busy or they're scared of messing something up. But this has massive implications for public policy. We talked about opt-in versus opt-out.
This is the famous 401k retirement savings example.
Yes. For many years, companies used an opt-in system. When you were hired, you got a form that said, check this box to join the retirement plan. And even when the company offered free matching money, literally free money participation rates were shockingly low.
People were just leaving free money on the table.
Thousands of dollars. Because finding the form, understanding it, and checking the box took a little bit of System 2 effort, so they just never got around to it. So many companies changed the default. Now, when you're hired, you are automatically enrolled in the plan. You have to actively find a form and check a box to stop saving.
And I assume participation skyrocketed.
Overnight, to nearly 90 or 95% in some cases. You use the employee's natural laziness and inertia to make them wealthier in their old age. That is a perfect life-changing nudge.
Okay, next is G for give feedback.
System 1, our automatic system, learns best through immediate feedback. If you touch a hot stove, the feedback is instant and painful. You learn very quickly not to do that again. But many of our modern mistakes are silent and delayed.
Like eating unhealthy food. I eat a cheeseburger and I don't instantly gain a pound.
Right. The feedback, weight gain, health problems, is delayed by months or years. So it's hard to learn. Good choice architecture tries to shorten that feedback loop. My all-time favorite example of this is the fly in the urinal.
I love this story. It's so simple and so brilliant.
It's at the Amsterdam airport. Apparently the men's restrooms were, let's just say, messy. A lot of spillage. So first they tried putting up signs asking for cleanliness.
Which were, of course, completely ignored.
Completely.
Yeah.
Men do not read signs in the bathroom. So some clever choice architect came up with an idea. They etched a tiny, realistic image of a black housefly into the porcelain of the urinals right near the drain.
And we'll have it.
Spillage dropped by 80%.
Just because of a tiny fake fly? Why?
Because it turns out that men, when given a target, will instinctively aim at it. It gave them immediate visual feedback on their aim. It gamified the experience. It engaged System 1 instinctively. No lecture, no sign, no fine required.
That's amazing. Okay, next up, E for expect error.
This is a simple one. Econs don't make mistakes. Humans do, all the time. So you have to design systems that are forgiving of those mistakes. We call this error-proofing.
My car does this. If I turn off the engine but leave the headlights on, and then I open the driver's side door.
Ding, ding, ding. It screams at you. That is the car's designer expecting you to make that error. Or think about the gas cap on your car. How many people years ago used to drive off with the gas cap sitting on the roof of their car?
I am one of those people. I have done that.
So now, what did car designers do? The cap is tethered to the car with a little plastic strap.
Yeah.
You literally cannot lose it anymore. They made the system error-proof.
The crosswalks in London do this too, right? With the look right signs.
Yes, tourists from America or Europe are conditioned to look left for traffic before they cross the street. But in London, traffic comes from the right. It's a deadly mistake to make. So they simply painted "look right" in huge letters on the pavement at every crosswalk. They expected the tourist's error and nudged them to stay alive.
Brilliant. Finally, S for structure complex choices.
This directly addresses what's known as the paradox of choice. The idea that if you give people too many options, they don't feel liberated, they feel paralyzed, they freeze.
This is the paint store problem.
Exactly. If I hand you a giant binder with 2,000 paint color swatches arranged alphabetically, you will have a complete meltdown. A good choice architect structures that complexity. They group the colors by family blues here, greens there. They might use what's called collaborative filtering, which is what services like Netflix do.
Because you watch The Office, you might also like Parks and Recreation.
Precisely. It takes an ocean of infinite choices and filters it down to a manageable, personalized puddle. It helps our poor, overworked system, too, handle the cognitive load.
So that's the Nudge GES framework. It's an incredible toolkit. But this didn't just stay in an academic book. It actually made its way into the highest levels of government. Let's talk about the real-world story of the Nudge unit.
This is a fascinating bit of recent history. It really starts in the United Kingdom. In the mid to late 2000s, politicians were starting to realize that their old, traditional tools, just passing laws and raising taxes, weren't solving complex modern behavior problems like obesity or low savings rates or energy waste.
They needed a scalpel, not a sledgehammer.
That's a great way to put it. So in 2010, when David Cameron became prime minister, his government created something called the Behavioral Insights Team, or BIT for short. The press immediately dubbed it the Nudge Unit.
It sounds like a secret police squad from a sci-fi movie.
It was much, much less glamorous. It was literally 7 people in a tiny office with a shoestring budget. And apparently at first, everyone in the traditional government hated them.
Why? What was the resistance?
Well, the traditional economists thought this psychology stuff was cute but ultimately fluffy and ineffective. And the critics on the other side thought it was a form of sinister mind control. So they were under huge pressure from day one to prove that this stuff actually worked and delivered value.
So how did they do that? How did they prove their worth?
They used the gold standard of science, randomized controlled trials, or RCTs. They basically treated every new policy idea like a clinical drug trial.
Can you explain how that works in a policy context?
Sure. Let's say you want more people to pay their taxes on time. The old way was just to send one threatening letter to everyone. The BIT way was to test different letters. So they'd send the old standard letter to one random group of people. That's the control group.
Okay.
Then they'd send a new, tweaked letter to another random group. For example, the new letter might add a single sentence that says, 9 out of 10 people in your town have already paid their taxes.
Ah, using social influence, the herd instinct.
Exactly. And then they would just measure the results. And it turned out that the social norm letter brought in millions and millions of pounds more in tax revenue much faster. It's cost literally nothing to change one sentence in a letter, but the return on investment was massive.
And because of successes like that, they expanded.
It was a huge success. They proved their values so effectively that in 2013, they actually spun out of the government to become a partially private company. Now they're a global organization with offices all over the world. There have been nudge units in the White House, in the UN, in governments, in Singapore, Sydney. It's become a standard tool of modern governance.
Okay, let's dive into a few of their greatest hits. We've touched on some already, but let's go a little deeper. Let's start with savings and the Save More Tomorrow program.
This is the brainchild of Thaler and another behavioral scientist, Shlomo Benartzi. It's designed to directly combat present bias. That's our natural tendency to be impatient. We want to spend money and enjoy things now. Saving for retirement feels abstract, like giving your money away to a stranger.
That stranger being future me. And frankly, I don't trust that guy. He's probably going to waste it.
So the Save More Tomorrow program brilliantly sidesteps this bias. It asks employees to commit now to saving more, but only later.
How does that subtle change help?
The program asks a simple question. Would you be willing to increase your savings contribution rate the next time you get a pay raise?
Oh, that is very clever.
Why is it clever? What psychological traps does it avoid?
Well, for one, I'm not losing any money right now in the present. I'm just committing some of my future hypothetical money.
Exactly. You completely bypass loss aversion. Your take-home pay today doesn't go down, so it doesn't hurt. And then when the raise comes, let's say you get a 3% raise, and the increased savings kicks in, say an extra 2%, your paycheck still goes up by 1%. You never see your take-home pay drop. You never feel the loss.
And then once you're in, inertia and the status quo bias take over and you just stay in the plan?
You stay in. It's automatic. This one program has helped millions of people save literally billions of dollars more for retirement than they otherwise would have. It's arguably one of the most successful applications of behavioral science in history.
Now let's talk about something even more high stakes. Organ donation. This is literally life and death.
This is probably the most dramatic and clearest proof of the raw power of defaults. There was a famous study comparing Germany and Austria, their neighboring countries with very similar cultures.
Okay, very similar populations.
So in Germany, they used an opt-in system for organ donation. You had to explicitly get a card or check a box on a form to become a donor. The consent rate in Germany was about 12%.
12%. Okay. What about Austria?
Austria used an opt-out system, also known as presumed consent. By default, every citizen was considered an organ donor unless they took the active step of filling out a form to opt out. The consent rate in Austria was 99%.
Wait, say that again. 12% versus 99%.
12 versus 99. It's an unbelievable difference. And it proves that it's not really about deep moral objections for most people. It's just that most people don't check the box. In Germany, the lazy default choice was no. In Austria, the lazy default choice was yes. The choice architect who designed that form in Austria saved thousands of lives simply by changing the default setting.
It's humbling. It makes you realize how much power these seemingly trivial things, like design of a form, have over all of our lives.
Immense power.
One more application, the environment. Let's talk about the company O-Power.
This is a fantastic example of using social norms for good. O-Power worked with utility companies to redesign their energy bills. The old bill just said, you used 500 kilowatt hours this month. But the new, nudged bill said, you used 500 kilowatt hours, your most efficient neighbors only used 300.
Ouch, that stings. It taps right into that keeping up with the Joneses instinct.
And it gets better. They give you a grade. If your energy usage was good compared to your neighbors, you got 2 smiley faces on your bill. If you were average, 1 smiley face. If you were bad, you got a frowny face.
Did the smiley face actually matter? We're adults, not kindergartners.
It mattered a lot. It turns out people really, really hate getting that frowny face from the power company. They want the smiley face. It gamified energy conservation and created a powerful social nudge to reduce consumption, and it worked across the board.
Okay, so we've seen the good side of this, but we have to talk about the dark side. In the final edition of the book, the authors introduce a new, very important term, the evil twin of the nudge. They call it sludge.
Yes. If a nudge is a design feature that makes it easy to do the right thing, sludge is the opposite. It's friction that makes it hard to do things that are in your own best interest.
I feel like my entire administrative life is just navigating one giant sea of sludge.
Sludge is red tape. It's waiting on hold for 45 minutes. It's filling out a 20-page form in triplicate. It is intentional difficulty designed to stop you from doing something or to make you give up.
The absolute best example of this has to be canceling a subscription or a gym membership.
Oh, it's the classic. To join the gym, one click online. Welcome to the family. To cancel your membership,
Here.
you have to show up in person on a Tuesday between 2 and 4 p.m. with a notarized letter and a blood sample from a registered unicorn.
That is sludge.
It is. They are deliberately using friction as a tool to trap you in their service. They are banking on the status quo bias. They know that if they make it hard enough, you'll just sigh and give up and keep paying for another year.
Mail-in rebates are another perfect example mentioned in the sources.
Pure, unadulterated sludge. The ad says, buy this new computer for $500, $50 rebate included. But to actually get that $50 back, you have to carefully cut the barcode from the box, find your original receipt, fill out a complicated form, mail it all in within 30 days, and then wait 12 weeks for a check that may or may not arrive.
And the companies know that. More than half the people will never bother to do it.
Probably way more. It allows them to advertise the lower price, but in reality, they get to keep most of the money. It brilliantly exploits our optimism. Well, I'll totally mail that in. And our general busyness and forgetfulness.
But it's not just private companies that create sludge. Governments are huge offenders.
Oh, absolutely. The complexity of filing taxes in many countries is a form of sludge. Applying for student financial aid, getting visas, applying for social benefits. And the tragic irony is that the people who need these benefits the most, the poor, the elderly, people who are stressed and have low cognitive bandwidth, are the ones who are least equipped to navigate the sludge.
So sludge is actually an equity issue. It's a social justice issue.
It absolutely is. If a financial aid form is 108 questions long and incredibly confusing, the rich kid whose parents can hire an accountant gets the money, and the first-generation college student from a poor family gives up in frustration, sludge actively punishes the vulnerable.
The authors call for sludge audits or sludge cleanup.
Yes. The idea is that organizations, especially governments, need to proactively audit their own processes. They need to ask, is this form necessary? Can we shorten it? Can we pre-fill some of the information? Can we make this automatic? We need to be as dedicated to scrubbing the sludge out of our systems as we are to creating helpful nudges.
Now, before we wrap this all up, I want to touch on the ethics of all this, because the big criticism you hear is, isn't this all just manipulation? Isn't it a form of mind control?
That is the #1 criticism, and it's a fair question to ask. The critics argue that nudging bypasses our rational deliberation, it bypasses System 2, and it subtly exploits our cognitive biases to get us to do something.
So what's the counter-argument to that?
The main counter-argument goes back to what we said about the cafeteria. There is no neutral design. The choice architect must put the food somewhere. The website designer must have a default setting. Since some choice architecture is inevitable, isn't it better to choose an architecture that is designed to promote people's welfare rather than one that is random or, worse, designed to exploit them for profit?
As long as you can still opt out.
That is the key. The libertarian part of libertarian paternalism is non-negotiable. The nudge must be transparent, and it must be easy to reject. You can always choose the chocolate cake if you really want it. No one is taking away your options.
There's another danger mentioned, though, the silo problem.
Right, this is a warning to the nudgers themselves. Choice architects are human too, and they're subject to their own biases. They often work in government departments or corporate divisions. Silos.
They have tunnel vision.
They do. The Department of Energy is obsessed with getting you to save energy. The Department of Commerce wants you to spend more money to boost the economy. They might end up nudging you in completely opposite directions at the same time.
Or one department might solve one problem but accidentally create a new one somewhere else.
Exactly. The argument is that nudgers need to talk to each other. They need to see the whole human, the whole system, not just a little slice of behavior that fits neatly into their department's narrow goals.
So bringing this all back home for us, we've gone from our inner Homer Simpson to the nudge unit to the evils of sludge. If you had to boil it down, what is the big takeaway for the listener? How can they use this in their own life?
I think the single most empowering takeaway is that once you understand the principles of choice architecture, you start to see it everywhere. You stop being a passive victim of the designs around you.
You can see the matrix.
You really can. You can walk into a supermarket and say, Ah, I see what you did there. You put the expensive brand name stuff right at eye level and the cheaper generic stuff way down by my ankles. Nice try. You could look at a subscription form and say, aha, that's sludge. I'm not falling for that. It gives you a new lens.
And more than just spotting it, you can start to nudge yourself.
Yes, you could become the choice architect of your own environment. If you want to eat healthier, don't just rely on willpower. We know willpower is a flimsy, limited resource. Change the architecture of your kitchen. Put the fruit bowl on the counter. Hide the cookies in an opaque container on the highest shelf.
If you want to save more money, automate it. Set up an automatic transfer to your savings account the day you get paid. Make the good choice, the lazy default choice.
That is the entire mantra. Make it easy for your inner Homer Simpson to do the right thing. Design a world for him to succeed in.
I love that. Be kind to your inner Homer.
He's trying his best. He just needs a little.
Yeah.
Or sometimes a big nudge in the right direction.
This was it on today's book, guys. And guys, kindly subscribe and follow us for more such insights on various books. And also do not forget to join our social media community to stay in touch and get updates.